Hello.
Faisal has joined us. Good.
Hi there. Hello, everyone.
Go live.
You said we're live, Amy?
No, Jim, are we live?
Yeah, we're live now.
Okay. And Jim Zook has joined us as well.
All right, we've got a full house. Great. So good evening and welcome to the Fairfax County Park Authority Board meeting of September the 9th. I'm Bill Bowie. To conduct this meeting wholly electronically and to effectuate both the emergency procedures authorized by FOIA and the emergency ordinance, the Park Authority Board needs to make certain findings and determinations for the record that we did at our very first electronic meeting. During our meeting, if you wish to be recognized, please raise your hand. And when I recognize you, please state your name. This will ensure that you are recognized and the public knows who is speaking. If you intend to vote nay or abstain on any item, we will need to do a roll call on those votes. Because each member of this board is participating in this meeting from a separate location, we must verify that a quorum of members is participating and that each member's voice is clear, audible, and at an appropriate volume for all of the other members. Accordingly, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and location from which you are attending. I ask that each of you pay close attention to ensure that you hear each of your colleagues. And following this roll call, we will vote to establish that every member can hear every other member's voice. And we will start by going alphabetically. Dr. Adu.
Abna Edu joining from my residence at the Lee District.
Dr. Carter.
This is Cynthia Jacobs Carter, and I'm joining from my residence in Lee District.
Maggie Godbold.
Maggie Godbold, and I'm joining from my residence in the Sully District.
Linwood Gorham.
This is Linwood Gorham, and I'm joining from my residence in the Mount Vernon District.
Tim Hackman.
This is Tim Hackman. I'm participating from my residence in the Drainsville District.
Ron Kendall.
This is Ron Kendall. I'm participating from my home in Mason District.
Faisal Khan.
This is Faisal Khan. I'm at my residence in Providence District.
Ken Quincy.
Ken Quincy. You can't see me, but I'm participating in my residence in the Providence District.
Kyle Stone.
This is Kyle Stone, calling in from my residence in the Braddock District.
Michael Thompson.
Mike Thompson, calling in from Alexandria, not my residence in the Springfield District.
And Jim Zook.
Jim Zook, calling from my residence in the Springfield District.
And I'm Bill Bowie, calling from my residence in the Hunterville District. At this point, I will pass the virtual gavel over to Vice Chairman Quincy so that I may be heard to make the requisite motion. I move that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of this board.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
This is Mike Thompson, and I second the motion.
Ken Quincy, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. The motion passes.
Thank you. Second, having established that each member's voice may be heard by every other member, we must next establish the nature of the emergency that compels these emergency procedures, the fact that we are meeting electronically, what type of electronic communication is being used, and how we have arranged for public access to this meeting. Therefore, I move that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this board to physically assemble and unsafe for the public to physically attend any such meeting. And that as such, FOIA's usual procedures, which require the physical assembly of this board and the physical presence of the public, cannot be implemented safely or practically. I further move that this board may conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video conference line. It is so moved.
Ken Quincy, you have heard the motion. Is there a second?
Tim Hackman, I second the motion.
Ken Quincy, is there discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Mr. Chairman, the motion passes.
Thank you, sir. Finally, it is next required that all matters addressed on today's agenda must address the state of emergency itself, are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations and the discharge of this board's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. It is so moved.
Ken Quincy, you have heard the motion. Is there a second?
This is Mike Thompson, and I second the motion.
Ken Quincy, is there discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Mr. Chairman, that motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So before we get started, and I know we'll do it later, but I certainly want to welcome everybody. I hope you had a great month off in August. And also welcoming our newest staff member, Stephanie Needham, who joined us and is stepping in and planning and development to replace Dave. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Bill.
You're welcome. And she went to a good college. She went to the University of Michigan. So you know she's good.
Forget Virginia Tech.
There you go. Okay. All right. Admin items. Admin item number 1 is the adoption of the minutes of the July 22nd, 2020 Park Authority Board meeting.
So moved.
Mike Thompson seconds.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Under action items in the Drainsville district, demolition of Potomac Hill Street manager's house and construction of new Riverbend maintenance facility.
This is Tim Hackman. I move the approval of the demolition of the former Riverbend manager's house on Potomac Hill Street and the construction of the new Riverbend maintenance facility.
Mike Thompson seconds.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. In the Springfield district, A2, scope approval, security lighting improvements at Braddock Park.
Mike Thompson, and I move to approve the security lighting improvements at Braddock Park.
Tim Hackman, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. Countywide, A3 is the approval of the fee adjustments to the golf section of the public fee schedule for 2020 with a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Kirk Kincannon, Director of the Park Authority. I just want to, before Todd Johnson steps up and makes a presentation, I want to say that we are definitely bringing this out of cycle due to unprecedented times that we are in right now. We have an opportunity to increase our revenue opportunity at the golf courses that are our line of business. And so without further ado, I'm going to let Todd talk about why we want to take advantage of this out of cycle adjustment. Todd?
This is Todd Johnson. I'm the manager of Golf Enterprises, and I am at the Heritage Building this evening with you. They're going to bring up the presentation. There we go. That's what we're going to do tonight. Propose some fee increases. So fee increases were to implement, effective approximately this time of year. We're going to get the benefit of 3/4 of this fiscal year, unlike the normal fee process, which we normally implement in April, where we would only see the benefit of those additional revenues for the 4th quarter of this fiscal year. You can go to the next slide. Like Kirk said, it's a very unprecedented time. And what I mean by that is both the unprecedented utilization of our golf courses that we've seen in the golf industry. We continue to see increased demand. We want to capitalize on that. as part of the revenue fund, we have a responsibility to make sure that the revenue fund is profitable. So that's what golf is going to try to do, is become more profitable so that we can pick up the slack a little bit for the parts of the revenue fund which have been more affected by the pandemic and more of an impact on their business. Next slide. So just like I reported out and when I was with you in July, we had reopened and had been seeing an increase in our play as well as the use of our driving ranges. That's been sustained. Now we've been open basically almost 4 months. We continue to see increases in both greens fees and range use in the range of 30%, as well as golf cart utilization is up due to separate people being riding single rider on golf carts. So the rentals of carts are up because it's not always two people in the cart. So I would anticipate you see those numbers, you add those numbers up, that's gets you about almost 1.2 million. When we come back to you in October and report out on the first quarter of this fiscal year, it's going to be very similar numbers. So the increase in the play and the use of the ranges has been sustained since day one of reopening. Next slide. So what we're proposing is an increase to the range bucket fees for all sizes, from small buckets, which are $7 currently, up to $8, and the increase up to $3 for what we call super jumbo bucket. That is the equivalent of 5 small buckets, or approximately 200 golf balls. Its current rate is $22, and we would increase that to $25. For everyone's on the line tonight, that's our most popular item that we sell, actually, is the super jumbo, where people are buying those 200 balls in advance, being issued a PIN code. They can hit all 200 balls on their visit, or save that PIN code and come back and use some of those balls on a different day. As well, we're asking to consideration for increasing the green fees from a range of $1 to $5. It would be $1 to $3 for the 9-hole facility and $1 to $5 for the 18-hole facilities. And we're not going to do this across the board. We're just asking for the ability to do this. Further research and discussions with the general managers as golf courses will occur. And the increases will be based on demand, current course conditions, and the weather / time of the year. There is some concerns, that all this increased play has stressed our maintenance at some of the facilities, and in those cases, those would be examples where we would not look to increase the fees at this time. But there is opportunities as we go through the rest of this fiscal year to take advantage of, so that we don't wait until next April. And you see the expected range of the increased revenue, anywhere 176,000 up to nearly 800,000. And the difference, if we had waited until April 1st, is pretty significant. You see the fiscal impact there of range of $100,000 to $230,000. So I'm available to answer questions as well. Emily Shoemate is on the line, who is analyst who assists with golf operations. So I'll throw it back out to Mr. Bowie if there's any questions.
Thanks, Todd. Any questions, any discussion? Linwood?
Yeah, the calculation for the increased revenue, do they take into consideration that the cold time of the year will not have the same traffic as the warmer time of the year?
Yes.
They're not just a flat calculation averaged for the whole year.
Correct. Based on the rounds and the participation in last fiscal year over that time period.
Okay. My comments on this are, yes, it's unprecedented times. Yes, we have to look for every way to do revenue, get as much revenue as we can right now. But I can't imagine a positive public response to this. So just, we got to be careful and maybe consider, we're giving you the authority to do it, and kind of test the rollout of it and try not to make people too angry. As somebody that, if somebody came out, they'd be saying, in these unprecedented times, it's one of our only recreation, and all you did was crank the price on us. Anyway, I'm just concerned about our image and our long-term loyalty a little bit. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but we do need to be careful, I believe.
Ron?
I guess one of the comments I make is I'm not sure about the cart fees that you're suggesting, because I don't know as people are paying more because they're riding individually. I have seen on the courses that there is a shortage of carts as people try to do one to a cart. So there's a lot of unhappiness from golfers who show up in the afternoon to find out that there are no carts to use because they're all on the course already. On the fees, are we considering holding them at this through the next business cycle so that we're raising them now, but we wouldn't reconsider another raise until the following April? Or will we be doing the same thing again in September?
Yeah, I don't want to predict the future, but this is a pretty substantial increase that we could do across the board. At this point, I would not anticipate that we would implement another fee increase in April, that this would be the fee increase for this fiscal year, but, thought we'd be in this position.
Yeah, I think my thought is that if we can tell people that we're doing the increase early, but it's not going to happen again in April, that's a better selling point than saying, yeah, we're just increasing it now because we can.
Any other comments on this? Kirk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kirk Cannon. I'm going to defer to Mr. Thompson, who raised his hand.
Michael?
Thank you. This is Mike Thompson. Todd, if I understand correctly from discussions and trying to put my arms around this, implementation of this would probably be done in November. There's a drop in price because of the seasonal cycle. So implementation of this would, in terms of greens fees, would probably occur by dropping it, but not dropping it quite as far as we might otherwise. So that it might be the $1 to $5 increase in greens fees would be reflected more in the fact that we didn't drop them as far as we otherwise would have. And then the next, when it came back in season, it would pop up with the increase. But in terms of the initial user experience, it's just that the cut would not be as much as normal by that $1 to $5, right?
Correct. That's definitely a strategy that we've discussed. Remember, the golf fees are sort of two sets. There's sort of prime season and non-prime season, and there's a significant drop in our rates November 1st. So one of the possible strategies would be we would utilize this potential increase, make the fees not drop as significantly November 1st.
Tim?
I share the concerns that have been expressed, but I also feel that we don't know the full ramifications and impact of the pandemic on our revenues and what the county is going to ask of us, either what we're going to hear later tonight or in the future. And therefore, I think it behooves us, not just on behalf of the citizens, but particularly in behalf of our employees, to strive to expand and even on an incremental basis, the revenue whenever we can do that, and to put some money on the books, and therefore I would strongly support the increase.
Thanks, Tim. I would feel the same way. I mean, this is, we need the flexibility to be able to take advantage of this. The folks that are using these, for the most part, it's disposable income. So, and we do have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we balance across the board. This is certainly one of those ways to do it. It may be a little painful, but it'll be pain to people that can absorb it for the most part. Kirk first, and then Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kirk Kincannon, Park Authority Director. I just wanted to concur with your comment, Mr. Chair, that it is generally golfers are those who have the disposable income. We are a market rate business. This is a line of business for the Park Authority that is key for the revenue fund. For those of you like me who worked in the Park Authority back in the 90s, golf was king. Golf many times sustained the Park Authority, so this is actually something that in the past we've used the golf to be able to do relative to the revenue fund. I am strongly encouraging us as an agency and a board to consider this, in that we have an opportunity because of increased market demand to take advantage of this to help the revenue fund, which is critical to the mission and what we provide to the community as far as offsets to tax costs.
Thank you, sir. Mike Thompson.
Yeah, and again, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, if I get these numbers wrong, but I think it's also important for all of us to recognize that even should they decide to take advantage of the flexibility we could give them tonight, we would still offer a round. I mean, a round of golf, depending on the golf course, could be as low as $20 on one of the 9-hole golf courses to a much higher amount. So we offer the opportunity at almost any price point for somebody who wants to play golf to take advantage of that opportunity. I would be, if we were talking about, every round of golf is now going to be $120 or something, I'd be much more hesitant. But I think that even if they were to exercise maximum flexibility and the maximum amount in the flexibility we're looking at, we still have an entry point for every type of golfer that might want to participate.
Great point, Mike. Ron?
Yeah, I think I would somewhat, I guess I keep coming to the equity question on golf, because it is a sport that we're trying to grow, and we're trying to grow it in communities that haven't normally taken advantage of our golf courses. That being said, the balance to that is you can't build equity in a course if the course isn't open and isn't generating revenue. So I get it. I'd like to watch the data really carefully to see what the numbers say as far as who the golfers are and how the courses are being managed over the next 6 to 16 months.
Great. Maggie?
Hi, this is Maggie. I'm for this again, and I understand that what we're doing is we're giving you all the option to make changes to the fees. That this is not like going to happen with all of the golf courses. My only suggestion would be is when you are about to make any kind of a change, to be sure that you let the appropriate district board members know, so that if they start hearing about problems, they'll be ready to respond to constituents. That would be my only recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Ken Quincy?
I'm fully in favor of this. It was mentioned in the presentation that we were in line with competition. Todd, does this mean we're below or equal to, or how do we stand with that competition?
It varies from golf course to golf course, but we definitely have opportunities where the market analysis will show that our rates are below similar facilities.
That's what I would assume. Thank you.
Okay, Cynthia, did you have a question?
I did. I was looking through the material. Is there a lower price for young people under 21 or something like that, or college age?
We have a junior rate. It's the same as our senior rate. It's 35% off our greens fees, and that applies to 18 and under.
So I was thinking, I am for this, but I was thinking that in considering One Fairfax and equity issues that have been brought up, that for young people, maybe if we did not charge them, if we would give them even greater discount, actually, than what you're stating, 35% off, that would be my only thing. I think young people probably could not afford this and should be given a break, but otherwise, it's okay with me. Is there an opportunity for that at all?
I'm going to defer to Kirk and Sarah on that one.
I think this is Kirk Kincannon, Director of the Park Authority. Dr. Carter, I believe as we look at One Fairfax and our push to improve our equity in programming, not only golf, but other areas of programming, we would probably take a look at as we move forward relative to providing scholarship opportunities or reduced fees, which we currently do for many other programs.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's really the way to approach it is via scholarships or waivers versus just saying, you know, anybody under 18 can go play for free, because that just opens up a can of worms that we don't want to do. Not being in business, a revenue generating business anyway, we don't want to open that can, because you do it for one, you have to do it for more than one, and I'm cognizant of that. So, okay, if there's no further discussion, Mike, can you make the motion?
This is Mike Thompson. I make the motion to approve the fee adjustments to the golf section of the published fee schedule of 2020.
Ken Quincy, I second the motion.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. Thank you. All right, on to information items. Countywide information item number 1 is the Rec Center reopening user experience survey summary. And Cindy Walsh, I think, has a presentation.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Cindy Walsh, Park Services Division Director. So Nick DeRay was going to be doing this presentation, and it appears he has lost connection and can't get in. So you get me for this fine presentation. I just want to kick off by saying, you know, I'm really proud of the Rec Center staff over the past several months. They have been really busy getting the sites ready for our visitors again. And really, it's been a lot of deep cleaning. It's been a lot of reading CDC guidelines, governor's orders, and, you know, getting the health department to actually come out to our rec centers to tell us what things we need to do to get ourselves ready for the public. And what we're going to show you tonight, and I think you'll be very proud of these results as well, what we're going to be showing you is what our customers have said since they returned. So I just want to check in to see if Nick is here. Nick, by any chance, have you jumped in? All right, well, let me see if I can do Nick proud. Can you go to the next slide, please? Well, we did a survey of our marketing staff, of our folks out there that have since returned back to the rec centers. And what we were asking them is, how do they feel when they're coming back? Are they comfortable? Are we making it safe feeling for them? Are they happy to be back in the site? We wanted to find out how likely they would recommend this as a safe place to exercise. And we wanted to find out about their personal training and group exercise, if they were comfortable now doing this at this time. And we asked them for just general comments. So as you can see, we had a pretty good return rate. We had a response rate of 31%. We asked 2,427 households, and of that, we received 750 responses, which is good. But the good news is in the next slide, please. This is a very high number. If you take a look to the left there, 93%. so that they feel very or somewhat comfortable using our rec centers under our current protocols. That to us is huge. It's a big number. Only 7% of the people had some other comments about this, but for the most part, you can see people are happy coming back to the rec centers. They feel very comfortable. Next slide, please. So we asked them what kinds of things that we could do to make you more comfortable. And look at that top number on the left. 48% said, nope, you're doing fine just like you are. And then other folks are saying we still, the cleaning and the spray and the wipes. They also very high demand for solo lap lanes. They're not happy about that we are putting more than one person in the lane, but by governor's orders, we can do that. They want to be sure we're enforcing protocols, making sure people are wearing their masks, and our reservations, which most of you know by now, we're taking ticketing so that we can get people in spaced out and have plenty of room in the rec center. People are asking that we make that a little bit easier for them. Locker rooms, ventilation, those kind of things that we've actually taken some steps. They just want to make sure that that's some other things that they can do to make it more comfortable. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So see why Nick does this presentation? Anna, can you hit the next slide, please? Nope, slide after that, and then the next one. Okay, so what do they like most about since we've reopened? Of course, everybody likes that we're not crowded. They also like that they can reserve space through the ticketing. So even though there's a little bit of concern about how to go about doing that, they're very happy that we are doing it. They think we have great staff. Like I said, we do have great staff. And when they cleaned and they provided all of these safety protocols, they have done a phenomenal job. They are happy about the pool being open. They like our protocols, our clean facilities. And I'll just point out that the clean facilities, this 13% rating is very high for us. We did take months to deep clean these facilities. They're looking better than they've looked in several years because we haven't had the luxury of closing them and being able to do the deep cleaning that we needed. Next slide, please. Some of the other things they talk about with the pool, they're glad that the pool is open. They're thrilled that the pool is open. And like I said, they like the protocols. The staff they feel that we're taking those precautions very seriously, which we are. And again, they like our clean facilities. One of the things you'll see if you move around the rec centers, you'll see people constantly cleaning, and that's all staff, and that's throughout the entire facility. People seem to really, feel comfortable that that's what we're providing to them. Next slide, please. So the other thing we asked is there anything else we can do to improve your experience? The one thing that you'll see on here that's a little bit different is the more fitness equipment. They would like that. I mentioned about some of the other things of the cleaning and the spray and the wipes, but they did mention too that they want us to bring back classes. We are currently in our class registration period, and we have brought back classes. They will be starting in a couple of weeks. We've had registration now for several weeks now, and we're going to be 10 more days into registration, and then classes start. Next slide, please. Is there anything else still on this side you can see? They want, we talked about on the right-hand side, some of the things about enforcing the protocols. The gym monitor should monitor the gym. They're happy about that. They also are asking for more active monitoring on mask wear. To be honest with you, we have not seen a lot of folks who are not wearing their masks. It's very rare. We check temperatures when you come into the rec center, and we make sure folks are wearing the mask, and we have not received pushback except for just one person at one time, and that sense is good as well. Next slide, please. And that is the end of our presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Or Nick, since you're back online, is there any one thing you wanted to point out?
No, you did a terrific job. My apologies.
Thanks. Any discussion? Okay, great. Thanks, thanks, Nick. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, countywide information item number 2 is the FY 2022 development guidance and budget update. And Mike Baird should be somewhere. There he is.
There I am. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Mike Baird here for the budget update. Oh, there it is. Ask and I shall receive. What we wanted to bring to you tonight is just a brief kind of budget development guidance that we've gotten from DMB, and then some updates kind of going back to where we ended FY20, and then also a little bit of a sneak peek, and Todd gave a little bit of that also for where we have been so far in FY21. Next slide, please. This is kind of just a snip of some of the major components of the annual memo that we always get from the Department of Management and Budget. The director over there kind of sends out to all agencies with some highlights of working on the FY22 budget. In this case, just some things we wanted to bring to your attention, like bullet number 2, of course, as no surprise to everyone. The revenue and economic outlook certainly remains highly uncertain. And revenues are not expected to be sufficient to meet all the county and school funding priorities. And this is somewhat of a normal thing because the priorities are always high and the funding is somewhat finite. But certainly it's more exacerbated this season. The good thing in bullet number 3, no funding reductions at this time. However, DMB said they will be closely monitoring revenue to determine if some reductions might be necessary in FY21. Or even in FY22. Some of the other things, of course, limit expenses only to those critical in nature. And any FY22 request must be accompanied by addendum request form. And some board members already mentioned, like the one Fairfax policy should be considered as part of that. Next slide, please. Oh, we can go back 1, please. And we might have jumped ahead. And this then, as we mentioned, kind of hitting on, for the FY22 budget for the general fund is going to be based on really the kind of the FY21 adopted budget. So we kind of wanted to give the board a preview, a reminder what the adopted budget looks like. We have revenue to the top line there for Rec Pack in the budget right now at $682,000. Expenditures in the general fund at $27 million, and the overall net cost of the county of $26.7 million for the general fund. So the FY22 budget submission that you'll see in a couple weeks will be pretty much similar to this. Next slide, please. What they don't really, for the FY22 general fund, too, as I mentioned earlier, new funding requests have to be critical, essential requests only. A couple of things that we internally staff know that we probably need to work on is a $130,000 request to update some drive cam technology. We've had those in our vehicles for a couple of years now. The technology that we're using is now obsolete, so it needs to be replaced, and there's a cost for that, about $130,000. Another item kind of going forward is, an additional $1 million we expect to be needed for synthetic turf replacement. Kirk and I are going to have some meetings for that, so it might be $1 million. We're looking at possibly user fees and so forth, possibly to get those additional dollars. But it's funding necessary to, every year to complete the, cost cycle replacement of the synthetic turf fields. Another item that we have on there is forestry. That's always an issue that we have. We got a lot of trees, a lot of parkland, and we want to be proactive in managing those trees. And this would be also then the next bullet is, the board have any priority items also. And one Fairfax equity type of things for the rec centers being a key thing that might be a priority for the board. So if there are any items like that, please let us know, and we would try to get those requests in. Obviously, again, it's going to be a very difficult year, FY22, for the county to getting additional funding, but we certainly want to put our request out there. Next slide, please, Hannah. On the park revenue fund and operating fund, we don't really get any guidance for that. That is obviously under the Park Authority Board's fiduciary control, but we're going to kind of follow some of the same guidelines that we have done with the general fund, and we're really going to kind of keep it pretty close to the FY21 adopted budget, which when we presented that last year is really based on the FY 2019 actuals. And the reasons for that, as we've kind of discussed many times, is all the unknowns as we're dealing with the COVID. We don't know what the impacts of camps and programs are going to be. Certainly, we think our revenue is going to be very low until there's a very effective vaccine. But we will reach out. We have been in contact with DMB, and we'll have an opportunity to make budget adjustments as we get more clarity going forward. So just be kind of somewhat of a placeholder budget, I guess, for lack of a better word. Next slide, please. So to kind of give you, kind of looking back before we move forward, and kind of how we ended FY20, certainly a very difficult year that we have not really ever seen in at least my time here. Across the top there, revenue, we ended the year with $31 million in revenue. Moving down, we had expenditures of $37 million. So we ended the year in a negative posture from an operating base of about $5.9 million. Next slide, please, Hannah. So kind of circling back, we took some steps to correct that issue that we had in FY20. We used some different, things in the toolbox, the Park Revenue Capital Sinking Fund. These are things that the board was very, helpful with. Monopole revenues from 18, 19, and FY20, using the Revenue and Operating Fund Stabilization Reserve. We had asked permission for that in the past and had never had to use it, but this year there's a first for everything. So in FY20, we had to do that. CARES funding from the county, we got about $1.8 million of expenditures that got transferred over to CARES. So that certainly helped us there. The general fund, rebalancing, moving some costs there. In the beginning fund balance, so we also had that helped us. And then kind of FY21, the county agreed to transfer in about $1.5 million to get our FY21 balance whole. Next slide, please. So, as we kind of mentioned, the FY22 will be modeled pretty closely after the FY21 budget. So you can see the FY21 adopted budget here of revenues of $48 million, total expenditures right now of $47 million, and a net of $1.5 million. Obviously, realistically, we know this will not happen, but until we get better clarity on what's going to happen, when are we going to get back to normal, what's going to happen with our summer camps and spring break programs, we just don't really have anything better to base our FY22 budget on. Next slide, please. So some of these are some of the controls that we've had, we were putting in place for FY21 and FY will be looking forward 22. But are some of the things that we have also been doing in the past, and some of these things really helped us to make it through FY20. But, operating expense controls, staff hiring limitations and freezes, reviewing even all the staffing structures at the sites, looking at different opportunities for changes, continue to work with the county DMB, and we've had a very good dialogue. They have really helped us out. They helped us out in FY20. And we'll be getting their help from FY21 and I'm sure in FY22 also. And then looking at alternative funding sources that we might have out there using, monopole dollars, proffer dollars, so forth. And you're looking at, maybe having to rebalance some of the mix between the revenue fund and the general fund. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned kind of at the beginning, some of the things we kind of looked where we ended FY20. But now I'll give you a little bit, and Todd kind of led into a little bit with golf, but some of the indicators, early indicators that we have with FY21. Some of these are for 1 month, and then we have one that's actually a 2-month snapshot. Next slide, please. So golf, and Todd gets all the kudos here and all the credit. Golf has been a stellar performer here. And this is just really kind of a one, from golf reopening. But up 36%. Golf revenue compared to July of 19 to July of FY20, revenue up $326,000. And then looking at the driving range, revenue up $88,000. So golf has certainly been the key thing for the Park Revenue Fund so far in FY21. Next slide, please. I guess we kind of heard a little bit about the new ticketing system that helps kind of control the entries into our sites. And this is kind of a little bit of a snapshot of that. The orange kind of graph going across the top there is kind of hitting the rec centers. You can kind of see the slow but steady growth that we're seeing there, kind of brought out by really some of the survey. People are very happy with it. As noted on the bullet, though, while the growth is great, it is doesn't translate directly into revenue. These are really kind of pass holders and so forth going back to the sites, but it's certainly good to see that. The blue kind of chart you see there is the managed parks. You can see kind of the spikes, which kind of indicate the weekends, but it kind of really bottoms out kind of during the weekdays. Some of that stuff in the past would have been mitigated by, things like the water mine, where you'd have people going out there all day, every day during the summer, but we don't have that opportunity this year. And the green line there, kind of steady across the bottom there, is the RMD sites. So it just kind of gives you a view of how things are going in the system. Next slide, please, Hannah. This one kind of brings it a little bit more down to kind of dollars and cents somewhat. You can kind of see an FY20 and FY21 comparisons for, picnics, and then also for campgrounds. Obviously, revenue is down this year, but, maybe not as bad as it could be. So as I mentioned, the reservations are doing well, but cancellations are certainly hurting us. But, at least we're seeing some, signs of, revenue out there. Next slide, please. This one, I guess, is really will kind of be the driver kind of going forward, kind of the big unknowns of our programs and our passes. As we noted there in the bullet, registration and season passes account for $27 million, or 55% of the total revenue for a revenue fund. You kind of see the graphics for 18 and 19, or I'm sorry, FY19 and FY20. And then, at the bottom there, FY21, and it's a very slow growth there. Hopefully, if we get lucky, get a vaccine or something like that at some point, we'll see those charts take off. But right now, it's a pretty low growth there. Next slide, please, Hannah. This is one where we have now, we just really were able to get some August numbers. So we're comparing the first 2 months of 19 compared to the first 2 months of FY21 through August of 20. And you'll see their revenues are down 59% from $7 million to $2.86 million. At the same time, however, expenditures are down. They're down 49% from $11 million to $5.6 million. So it gives you, the picture is not going to be a very pretty picture. Obviously, we'll be bringing you to the board a first quarter status in November. But this is a 2-month snapshot of that. So it gives you an idea of what the numbers are going to be looking like. Next slide, please. Again, kind of the key things, and we've probably mentioned this many times, so of how we're kind of looking at the budget and even just operating our system, our mission, but, one Fairfax, ensuring the health of the community, so certainly the patrons coming in, but also ensuring the health of our workforce, kind of making sure our facilities are safe for a good experience for the staff and for visitors coming in. Next slide. And this is really, are there any questions from the board looking in regards to the 22 budget?
Great job, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Discussion, anybody? Anybody have any questions? Kyle?
Kyle Stone. Mike, on the cancellations, are those numbers since we reopened and people have made reservations and are still canceling, or are those all the way back to people made reservations in December and their cancellations for March kind of thing?
Mike Baird here, and I will kind of throw a lifeline out to Cindy Walsh if she's available. I'm assuming it's really more cancellations that we have seen really this year, but I will ask if Cindy has a second, if she could chime in with, a more accurate answer.
Mike, it's Josh Coleman, Business Office Manager. I'll actually jump in on this one. So a lot of those cancellations are reservations that were made back January through March timeframe, but they were scheduled for some time in the summer. And so that's where a lot of that refund and cancellation activity is coming from right now. Okay, but mostly not driven by since we've been reopened and new reservations and cancellations. Okay. Yeah, since we've been reopened, we've actually done pretty well since we've been reopened. It's just all the previous reservations that we're still refunding for. Okay.
Great. Mike Thompson.
Mike, and again, this is probably not going to be directly for you, and I'm not sure who for, but when we're looking at the revenue that we're going to generate out of the rec centers, one of the things that strikes me, even before COVID stuff had hit, we had some folks talk to us about the difficulty of paying, for example, an entire annual fee at one time, and the desire to be able to split that up, be able to commit to it and have it hit their credit card each month for a lower amount. That from them managing their budget, that was a better approach. My assumption would be that any pressure like that has only gone up, and that as we are examining ways to try and make it easier to deal with some of these revenue questions, that we really ought to look to try and solve some of those really back office billing kind of issues as a priority. So I bring that up as something to consider.
Thank you very much, Mike. Yes.
Mike, this is Cindy Walsh. So yeah, we still are pursuing that avenue. One of the things during this COVID time we've been fortunate about is that folks who have been doing that, they are the ones like the Orange Theories and places like that use the monthly payments, and they're the ones who now are, some of them people are asking for refunds and they're closing. So we are at least feeling good of the pass holders that we have, but we are definitely looking into that.
Ron Kendall.
I actually wanted to ask a question. It may not be for this group, but for more the programming side of it, but it has an impact on the budget side of it. Many of the facilities and the programmers have tried to develop either a virtual or an online presence. And it seems like that's an expanding field that we're trying to take advantage of because we have to. But I'm wondering if that's a future opportunity for some of these sites where they can have actual virtual programming. Some of the instances are like Green Spring Gardens is having virtual teas out of the Manor House. They go online to sell plants rather than have in-person sales. Are there opportunities that we're applying now for COVID that we could continue and maybe expand some of the revenue base into an area where people wouldn't normally go to the rec center, but they will take an online program?
Absolutely. So virtual programming, this is Sarah Baldwin, Deputy Director. So virtual programming was new to us. If after we're through COVID, we still see an interest in the community to take virtual programming, we absolutely would continue it. So another thing that we've done is moved a lot of our programming outside. Those are the programs that are filling this fall. People are more comfortable outside rather than indoor in facilities. So we're also increasing the number of programs that we're offering outdoors.
Yeah, I guess what I was asking on the budget side is, can we find a way to separate that out, those new programming views, so that we can see it as a separate line item under revenue?
Yeah, we can.
Any other discussion? This is Bill Bowie. All right. Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So we're on to Chairman's Matters. Welcome back. Like I said, we still live in crazy times. The biggest thing for us to be paying attention to as a board are two things. One is certainly the budget construction going for FY 2022. And then the thing at the top of our agenda, of course, is making sure that we work with everybody to get passage of the bond in November. But November's here because you can start voting absentee next week. And so if you have not gotten your materials out to various people, the Green Team's a little bit different this year. Then please do so. Reach out to as many people as you can on your social media. Any of us are available. We'll coordinate through through Sarah and Amy and Kirk if we need to be a part of any kind of virtual presentation, and Judy Peterson, of course. I think that's the most important thing. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of moving parts. Everything at this point is kind of cast in jello, but this is firm. And this is the most critical and important thing to us as board members of the Park Authority. So please, if you've got any questions, any ideas, any suggestions to help us move the ball across the finish line, that would be absolutely great. And with that, again, welcome Stephanie, and I'll turn it over to Kirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kirk Kincannon here, Director of the Park Authority. I want to welcome Stephanie officially to the fun of the Park Authority Board virtual meetings at this point. Stephanie has a unique connection with the Park Authority, a licensed architect with longtime ties. Stephanie, who joined the Park Authority on August 24th as the new Director of Planning and Development, was involved in making news with the Park Authority for helping to name one of the Park Authority's properties. As an 11-year-old, Stephanie from the Orange Hunt Elementary School and a fellow student won the Name the Lake contest that gave Lake Mercer its name. So Stephanie is linked into the Park Authority, so it is just synergy that she's here with us. Before Stephanie came to us, she was involved, has more than 20 years of design and planning experience, including service as the acting division chief for the Western Hemisphere region, where project development and coordination within the overseas building operations at the United States Department of State. In that role, Stephanie managed and supervised staff responsible for a vast array of capital projects, including several new embassy compounds worldwide. So she has international experience. We're very lucky to have Stephanie. The position involved decisions about land acquisition and development, contract procurement, design, and construction of U.S. embassies and consulate compounds, where she oversaw a portfolio across Canada, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Her experience took her back to the Honduras area to oversee the design and construction of the new embassy, and I'm not even going to pronounce this one, in Honduras, where she also served in the Peace Corps. So I'd like to say thank you, Stephanie, and welcome. And if you'd like to say a couple things, I'm going to give you a minute.
You're on mute, Stephanie. We can't hear you. No.
It's like we've lost audio from Stephanie for some reason.
Lost audio from Stephanie.
Gracie needs to give her a microphone.
She's an architect, not an IT person.
It shows her using a headset, which she's not using. She needs to change her settings, I think.
Jim, have you muted?
No, it's the same thing with me. I never use a headset.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I unplugged it from my
There
Great. Sorry about that. Kirk, thank you so much for the welcome and all the words. And Bill and the board, I really appreciate the welcome that you all have given me as I've started here in just the last few weeks and been barraged with all of the things that you do across the county. I'm super impressed. Everybody I've met so far, as Kirk mentioned, I went from working on, quite a number, fewer of projects that were much larger in scope and scale in my past experience. And so coming to this role is a little bit different for me, but I do come from a place that's very near and dear to my heart, having grown up in the Springfield area and then coming back to the Fairfax County after several years abroad and all around the country. So I've lived in parts of Alexandria and Groveton, and I'm now a resident of the Providence District out in Oakton. And my roots go back to, those days at Lake Mercer in the competition. And the embassy in Honduras is Tegucigalpa. That's how you pronounce that. But I really look forward to working with all of you and getting to know you and continuing to work together and making the parks and public spaces in our community better. So really appreciate the welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And then I wanted to remind the board that the popular Dog Days event is occurring virtually this year. It began on September 4th and will run through September 14th. Participants have been asked to submit a photo of their dog using water as a backdrop, whether it's water hoses, sprinklers, rivers, lakes, the ocean, a stream, even a water dish. Join us in the virtual 2020 Dog Days and make a contribution to support the animal shelter and the park authority. And that is it, sir.
Thank you very much. It's Bill Bowie. Okay, with that, we will go into closed session. Mike?
Were you going to do board matters first?
Oh, yes. Let's do that. All right, Mike, why don't we start with you? Mr. Board Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to again point out that with Stephanie now on board, it's more proof that the Springfield District produces the best people and pass.
All right, very good. Tim?
Just quickly, I'd like to, Tim Hackman, I'd like to thank Judy Peterson and her staff, plus staff from the Planning Division for the multiple park bond presentations they either have done or are doing, including one after this meeting in the Dranesville District. So thank you so much.
Great. Ron?
I'm good. You can pass.
Okay. Abner? Are you
I'll
there?
pass. Thank you.
Okay. Cynthia?
I pass.
Faisal? You're muted.
Well, I want to welcome Stephanie on board, and just a quick note for Mike Thompson that she may be from Springfield, but she chose to live in Providence District. That definitely tells her that she has a very good taste.
Great. Thank you. Jim? You're on mute.
Okay. I pass.
Yep. Anything, Jim?
I'm sorry, Jim Zook. I pass. Thank you.
Okay. Ken Quincy?
Just one thing I want to second Faisal's comment about Stephanie's choice of living places. Welcome to Providence. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Just one other thing, for an off month, August was quite a challenging month in Providence. We had a number of challenges and issues come up, and I just want to thank staff for their efforts toward resolving these challenges. They did a great job. You couldn't have picked a better team, Stephanie.
Great. Thank you. Linwood?
Just like to take a second to welcome Stephanie. Look forward to meeting you in person and working with you.
Great. Thank you. Maggie?
I also want to welcome Stephanie. I look forward to working with you, Stephanie. And I just also want to welcome everybody back. It's really good to see everybody here and that everybody is staying healthy. That's very, very important. Thank you.
Very, very good. The one thing I did forget to tell you guys is that I have been appointed by Chairman McKay to the Equity and Diversity Task Force. We'll be holding the first meeting. There's pretty much a full afternoon session on Friday, and I think we'll have a second meeting before we meet again. So I will certainly keep the board in touch with what's going on with that particular committee. It's an important time for that to occur, and I'm looking forward to it. So with that, we'll go into closed session.
This is Mike Thompson. I move the Park Authority Board recess and convene in closed session for discussion and consideration of matters enumerated in Virginia Code 2.2-3711 and listed in the agenda for this meeting as follows. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, or of the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A3.
Mr. Quincy, would you like to second that motion?
Got on mute. Ken Quincy, I second the motion.
This is Bill Bowie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. We are in closed session. So we will now, we'll be there for about 30 minutes.
I'm out of closed session.
All right. We are now out of closed session. Mike, can you certify us?
This is Mike Thompson. I move the Park Authority Board certify to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under 2.2-3712 and only such public business matters as are identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the board.
Ken Quincy, I second the motion.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. We are certified. All right. C1, the property in the Sully District to be added to the work plan as discussed in closed session.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Maggie Godbold, and I'd like to make a motion to add a C1 to the work plan, please.
Ken
Mike
Quincy, I
Thompson
second the
seconds.
motion.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. That action item is carried. Okay, C2 is property in the Lee District to be added to the work plan. Approve the authorization as discussed in closed session.
This is Cynthia Jacobs, and I move that we add C2 to the work plan and authorize the offer range.
This is Tim Ackman. I second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor of adding to the work plan in Lee District?
Aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. C3 is the property in the Hunter Mill District to be added to the work plan as discussed in closed session.
Ken Quincy, I second
This
the
is Bill
motion.
Go ahead, Ken.
Had you made the motion? I just seconded it.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion carries. C4 was a discussion only, and C5 was a discussion only. With that, thank you, everybody. Be safe out there, and unless there are any other business to be conducted, we are adjourned.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.